After his wife died 8 years ago, he decided to give up the apartment they shared. Too many memories and, in practical terms, too much space and too high rent led him to do so. The house he now lives in is a bit run down. Tenants come and go. He doesn't really know anyone, and since the death of his wife, he hasn't spoken to anyone, apart from the necessary standardized phrases when shopping and the bare essentials for necessary official business. He no longer has any friends. Now he spends his days alone. The sound of a door opening in the hallway catches his attention. He goes to the door and looks through the open gap. It's the old woman from across the hall. She has come back from shopping. He has seen her many times before, as she lived here when he moved here 8 years ago. He knows that she only leaves the apartment to go shopping. They have never spoken to each other. He is different. He doesn't just spend his days in the seclusion of his apartment. When the weather permits, which is actually almost every day, he goes out into the streets. He lets himself drift with the flow of the other city dwellers. He has a destination. His path leads him to the park, which is not too far away from his apartment. Once there, he looks for an empty bench, sits down, watches the birds, and listens to the sound of the city, which mingle pleasantly with those of the park. At the latest, when it threatens to get dark, he goes home again. And so the days pass, day after day. It is almost as if he is being driven by a machine that constantly produces the same thing in time. But one day, when he was sitting on a park bench, something is different. He notices an owl. It was sitting a little further away in the grass and didn't seem to be interested in him. An owl is something special. He has never seen an owl here before. He watches it and wonders what brought it here. When it eventually got dark, he left the park to the owl without having found an answer to his question. He couldn't hardly wait to return to the park the next day to see if the owl is back. The excitement is good for him. It is a welcome change from his monotonous daily routine. When he arrives at his bench in the park, he can hardly hide his joy. There the owl sits again, and this time it comes closer. He's so excited that he spontaneously starts talking to her. Obviously, the owl doesn't find this threatening. However, she doesn't seem to be ready to return the compliment. So they spend the afternoon alone and yet together. And this night, he couldn't hardly sleep and woke up from a surreal dream. He dreamt of an owl that takes the form of a pretty woman. Being excited about what he had seen, he went back to the park the next day. But the owl is nowhere to be seen. It's not there the next day either. He was feeling pretty sad and lonely, so he was sitting on the bench when he noticed a woman coming over. As if he had lost control of himself, he blurted out, "Hello, do you have a minute for me?" "Of course," the young woman responds and sits down next to him. He doesn't even realize that the allotted time has turned into an hour until the young woman has to leave. And when he tries to apologize for disturbing her, she waves him off and says, "On the contrary, I haven't had such a lively conversation for a long time. Thank you for the lovely afternoon." The old man is delighted and sets off home. He senses that something has changed in him. The next day, he doesn't leave the house. He waits until the afternoon. Then he opens the door to his flat and sneaks across the corridor to knock on the old woman's door. He waits impatiently to see what happens. Then he hears noises in the flat and the door opens. The old woman stares at him with astonished eyes. "Can I invite you for a cup of tea or coffee?" he asked without hesitation. The woman seems so surprised by the question that she spontaneously agrees. As the next few hours pass, the sound of animated conversation, occasionally loud laughter, can be heard from that old man's flat. Christmas carols are played on the radio. It's Christmas Eve. When was the last time you spoke to a stranger?